Welcome to another episode of Give It a Nudge. Today we'll have a lot of fun. We've got a good friend of mine, Rafael Niesten from Proptech Labs.
Well done, you did it.
Got it.
You did it.
Welcome, Raf.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Steve.
It's funny when you have people that you know really well and you don't ever use their surname and you don't ever talk about their business because they're friends. Yeah. It's actually quite hard.
I actually didn't know your surname until now, so I just thought you only had one name. That was how I've always known you. Steve, that's it.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thanks,
we
mate.
are here to talk all things entrepreneurship because you have been in this game for a while.
Correct.
And we met, I don't know, 10 years ago or something.
I'll say about that.
Yeah. Something like that.
A long time ago.
It was a long time ago, and you're already accomplished. So I actually don't really know much prior to that. So, but before we do that, quick summary, elevator pitch, Proptech Labs. Tell us what you're doing.
Yep. So Proptech Labs,
So you can't say it now.
Well, you stuffed me up, mate. It's your fault. So Proptech Labs, what we do is we do all the back of house stuff for property management. So things like boring things like maintenance, inspections, invoicing, chatbots, and a raft of other functions.
Commercial, residential, both?
Mainly residential.
Right.
We have a bit in commercial and a bit in strata. We have customers in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and the UK now, which is exciting. We look after about 1.7 million properties.
That's a lot.
That use our platform. So yeah, more than 1 in 2 properties in region use one or more of our platforms.
And so who are you selling that to? Property managers?
Property managers, yeah. So property management agencies. We've got customers from small to the Meritons and the JLLs of the world. So we cover everyone in between that. So yeah, we take care of all of that functionality. Our inspection business, we process more than a million images a week, 40,000 inspections a week. We've got more than 1 billion photographs attached to people's properties in our database, and we have maintenance. We have the whole heap of stuff. So we're now moving in towards the AI realm, as everybody is. AI first, blending all the data, blending all the platforms together. And it's completely crazy busy. So that's my elevator pitch. And I don't need any money, so thanks.
And you're up for an award tonight.
I'm up for an award. We're actually up for 4 awards tonight.
Oh, wow.
1 for me and 3 for the business. So Proptech Leader of the Year. I think I'm too controversial to win, so I probably won't win, but it's nice to be nominated anyway.
You might win.
I might. But
where is it?
It's at the Fullerton tonight.
Oh, very nice.
So it's very fancy.
Yeah, it will be.
My black tie. That's why I'm half suit dressed.
So you will be getting changed.
I will. I've got to go buy a white shirt, as I was explaining to you earlier. My white shirts look somewhat yellow because, like you, I'm a T-shirt guy.
Yeah.
That's what happens in technology. We wear T-shirts.
T-shirts and polos are the best.
Weird.
Well, I dressed up because you were dressing up.
Well, I'm thank you for dressing up, mate. I appreciate it. It feels good. Socks.
Got earthy colours today. Right, let's go back to before I knew you, before Steve, as we could call it.
Steve.
Tell me a little bit about it, because I literally don't think I've ever had enough interest to ask. Tell me, when you left school, what did you do? Did you go to uni? Did you go straight into business? What happened?
No, I went to uni. So I went to uni and I thought, this is cool. And while I was at uni, I thought, this is great, but I wanted to do some entrepreneurial type stuff.
Yep.
So I started a little security business, and I was selling things like bugs and mini cameras and things
that kind of security. Not
we had that too, but the other side of the business was that. So I sort of ran that on the side while I was in uni, and it was pretty cool. I enjoyed it a lot.
Who were you selling to at uni? Bugs?
The police. So this was this was all before the internet. So the internet was like first coming out, and no one knew how to really use it or source stuff from it. It was an amazing period of time. Like you could find things, you could source things, you could do whatever you wanted to do. So I sort of ran along with that, and that was pretty cool. Didn't blow the socks off, didn't make billions of dollars. And I thought, it's time to try something else. And then mobile phones were starting to become
I do know what you did. We have talked about this.
So there you go. It's called amnesia, Steve. It's called amnesia. As you get older, you forget the things that you ask.
Well, this was 50 this year, you see. It's all going wrong, right?
It's been downhill for a while for you.
So anyway, for anyone who doesn't know, back to mobile phones.
Back to mobile phones. So mobile phones were like really exciting. They were coming up. There was the Nokia 5110, which was a revolutionary phone.
I had that phone.
Everyone who was our sort of era, not that I'm as old as you, but everyone who was our sort of era has had that sort of technology. And I sort of started dealing mobile phones. And then I found loopholes in contracts because there was a lot of providers, like for example, Orange or OneTel. They'd come out with plans that were more commission than the value of the plan.
I remember
because I wanted people to come and spend more. So I signed up a lot of customers in that. And then I found sort of like a little niche, if you will, in terms of the prepaid market. So they had a prepaid Nokia 5110. It was $199 on prepaid. But But as a dealer, it cost us $499, and they were locked to a network. So unless you were with that network,
Right,
you
yeah, I
couldn't
remember
use it.
that.
Okay, so I found some cables from Hong Kong and a piece of software that cost me about $16.
Unlocking them?
Unlocking them.
I remember getting a phone unlocked. It cost me a fortune.
Yeah, correct. But what I did a little bit different. I lived in a tiny apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, and I spent my days unlocking the phones. And I'd buy them for $199 and I'd sell them for $399, so they were still cheaper. So I'd have a $200 margin.
Yep.
Plus the prepaid was $50, so I'd sell that for half the price as well. And at one point in time, my whole apartment was full of mobile phones. Like to the roof. I couldn't, there was nowhere to sleep. They were everywhere. It was like a full-time job. That's what I did. People would come, buy the phones, and so on and so forth.
So you were selling them just out the door?
Out the door, yeah.
Where were you advertising? Was that just word of mouth?
Well, I knew all the phone dealers. Because
Right.
I'm from Perth originally, so I knew all the phone dealers, and people was like, I need some phones, we've got some stock, and it's $100 cheaper than what you're getting.
So I remember OneTel. I did a lot of recruitment for OneTel.
There you go.
Never got paid.
Yeah,
Funny
well,
that.
a lot of people didn't, but I did, so that's okay.
I think they ended up going under owing. Oh, it was a lot. They owed us a lot.
Yeah, they did go under owing a lot of cash. But interestingly, after doing this for a really long period of time, I think I would have bought thousands, if not tens of thousands of these phones.
And that was your full-time gig?
That's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I got out of uni, my first degree I did. There was a fax, because this is how old it is, there was a fax sent around to every Telstra dealer in the entire country to no longer sell me prepaid phones.
Did you have your face on? Like a
I don't
wanted poster?
No, I don't think it was a wanted poster. It would have been cool if it was.
It would have been so on a fax as well.
Yeah, exactly. But it was an amazing business, and it sort of gave me my first big push because it was a great business to have.
Yeah.
It was a great business to operate, and it came with virtually no cost. I was running it out of my house. I moved into a shop after that because it was too problematic to have all of these phones everywhere where you were. You're eating breakfast. The phones are with you.
You're unlocking
in the
phones,
shower,
yeah, literally.
The phones are with you. It's like it was everywhere. And so that was really good. That gave me a boost. Obviously, after that fax went around, it was a bit difficult to get supply. 5110 started to lose interest and new phones came out.
Yep.
So that sort of petered off a bit. But when I was a younger lad in my first degree, I did a 6 months stint in Canada.
What did you study?
I did marketing and media. So I did a double degree,
Yep.
my first degree. And as per the degree, there was an opportunity to go to another country. So I did a scholarship and I went to Canada for 6 months.
Oh, cool.
It was amazing.
Where
fun.
were you?
Vancouver.
Yep.
So I lived on top of the mountain at this university called Simon Fraser University. First time I'd ever been out of Australia by myself, 18-year-old kid. Knew nothing, had no idea what was going on. I had a job at the uni. My job was printing IDs for people. And in Canada...
Did they really not think about that? No one
They
looked.
did not think about it at that time. So in Canada, the legal age is 19 and I was 18. So it was helpful that I worked in the ID department at that point in time so I could go into the bars, albeit I looked like I was 40 when I was 18 anyway. So not much has changed. But when I was there, I actually fell in love with radio because me and I had a roommate from Denmark and we had a radio show once a week and we had good listenership and it was great. And I came back to Perth and I was like, man, I want to try this radio again. I loved it. It was great. No one would have me because I was a young guy and there was no opportunity. So I set up my own radio station in Perth. And that was a very interesting story.
Now, this I don't know.
Yes, this was a very interesting story. So we sort of put an application and we had no idea.
To get a license.
So there was community license. So it cost $120 for a 3-year license. And we applied for a license. We had no idea what we were doing. Didn't even know we had to buy the equipment and the transmission site and all. It was a massive learn on the job style of thing. And they said, yeah, congratulations, you've got a license. You're sharing it with a group of seniors. So we were youth, they were seniors. We were 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. They were 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. And this was for a period of time while they were sussing it out. And, we put it together. I don't know how we did it. Begged, borrowed, stealed.
Yep.
Put it all together, turned the transmitter on, played this same CD over and over and over again.
Can you remember what it was?
I remember that. I remember one song specifically. It was that Sophie Ellis-Bextor, "Murder on the Dance Floor."
That's made a big comeback.
It's made a massive comeback. I've still got PTSD from that song. So I just played in my head over and over again. But we played that and it came on and we thought, oh, this is cool, man. We've got a radio station. And we just jumped on and said, oh, if anyone's listening, if you want to hear a song, just give us a call. And we gave the number and the phone started ringing. And we think, holy shit, this is real. This is actually happening. People are listening. So we just used a simple philosophy. What people wanted, we played on the radio. And then
Very simple.
Pretty simple. We didn't have a formula. And in those days, it was like 5 songs, 20 ads, 5 of the same songs, another 20 ads, boring. And people were disenfranchised with it all. So we just did what people wanted. And we had youth, and it was a volunteer station because we were community, obviously. Yep. And, we knew we had listenership because people would call up and say, they'd say, hi, my name's Steve, and can you do a shout out to my girlfriend, Mary? And we'd get on and say, oh, Steve, Mary, congratulations, you're in love, or whatever happened, right? And then people would tell their mates. And so they'd keep coming in, and then people would SMS. And this was all days before Spotify, before iTunes and all of that stuff. So we kept getting bigger and bigger, and we did our first event. We thought, let's go and meet the people. And we had a line that went for just under 4 kilometres of people trying to get in. It snaked around the block.
Where'd you do it?
At the biggest nightclub in Perth. It held 3,000 people, and we were full within 30 minutes. Full capacity.
Nuts.
It was crazy. But when you're successful, things don't always go to plan. And here comes the other side of the coin. So we were so successful so fast. They used to measure the ratings. You get the commercial radio ratings. Other FM used to be like 0.1%. Other FM shot up to like 10%. And obviously it was us. Yeah. Other FM then disappeared from the ratings. And then one day, 1st of August, I'll never forget the day, the fax machine kept going and going and going. And we basically had been summoned by the Broadcasting Authority to answer all of these questions. So Nova, DMG, they had put a complaint in that we weren't serving the needs of the Perth market. So the Broadcasting Authority
that doesn't make any sense.
Correct. It didn't.
It's completely the opposite.
It was completely the opposite. But this is what ended up happening. So we spent, probably 12 months fighting with them about it. And it's not, which we learned. I mean, I was early 20s. I had no idea about this stuff. And then they said, we're coming to do an interrogation. That's the best way I can frame it. 7 of them came. 7? And they briefed the Queen's Counsel who ran this investigation against us. They had the chair, they had the deputy chair, they had the head investigator, they had board members, and they all flew to Perth.
You must have killed their ad revenue for them to go to this leg.
We hurt them. And we hurt them, but all we did was what people wanted. And, we were a volunteer station. We had 300 people that came in and volunteered time. People that had no sense of community, they'd come in and it was great. And, won a few awards as a result of that, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Don't want to steal the thunder. But in the end, basically they came twice. They couldn't find a smoking gun. They wrote like a 300-page report, and basically they wanted me and the other guy that joined me in the early days to go. And I thought, well, I'm not going to ruin all of the legacy. I'm going to go. I'm going to let the next generation take over. So I said, all right, I'm out of here. And then I said to them, whatever you do, don't agree to the conditions, because they could fight. They had decided in the end not to fight, and within about 9 months, they shut them down, and that was the end of it.
That's such a shame.
It is. But that's what it was, and that was the commercial radio world. They had all the power. The investigation was completely driven by them. But it was a massive eye-opener, because we had no idea what we were doing.
They couldn't do that now. With social media, they wouldn't stand a chance.
They wouldn't stand a chance. No, because people would say, I like this, I listen to it. But that being said, it wouldn't exist these days because people don't need that service anymore. No. If they want to hear a song, they just go on Spotify or iTunes or whatever.
Very true.
The world has changed, where they'd SMS and get a song request or call up.
SMS. You're not even saying text, you're saying SMS.
No,
you're going to say World Wide Web in a minute.
I will, because I'm talking to you.
I understand these terms,
Yeah, you're an older gentleman.
I still fax you. We fax each other when we go out, right? That's how we communicate.
Let's not say that too loud, okay? There's no faxing going on here. Anyone who's listening to this podcast or this segment.
I loved faxing.
No, I didn't like it. It was always running out.
All resumes used to be faxed in recruitment, We used to fax them all, take hours.
It's a disaster. And then your printer runs out of ink and doesn't get it. You miss 3 pages. It's all blank pages.
It'll all be on the floor.
Yeah, no one knew. Look, it was a cool period of time. But, so the radio station was awesome. Like, I loved it. I learned so much. But I also learned how to run a business properly.
You would have learned a lot. I mean, that would have just been an incredible experience. And it's given you a taste of what can be done with very little, right?
Correct. And it was like a roller coaster ride. We had these highs, we had these lows, things would go wrong, things would go right, but we had a great churn of people. People came in, and, a lot of people that volunteered at that station went on to television, radio, film, etc. It was a base for them. Some of them still reading the news and are reporters. So it was really cool. And because of that, I don't know who did it, but someone nominated me. So I ended up winning the Citizen of the Year for Western Australia
No
for
way.
youth. So I was the winner, and I was a finalist for Young Australian of the Year.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I keep that under wraps, mate.
Crazy things happen in Perth. It's a wild place.
It's great, Wild West, mate.
It
Wild
is.
West,
It really
Wild
is.
West. So yeah, that was really cool.
Who won, by the way? That
Someone who
Australian
was
of the
doing
Year?
something that was far better than me. I was just working at a radio station helping people and
You're
volunteering.
just playing CDs.
Playing songs, putting people's songs on the radio. There was someone who was doing some medical things in Africa, I think, something like that anyway. But, you don't do it for the accolades and awards. But, we sort of learned a lot in terms of governance and diligence and things like that. We put all of our receipts in a shoebox. We just paid cash for things. We didn't have any financial literacy at all because we were young and just playing songs people wanted to hear. But you learn how to protect yourself against the bigger enemy, against the authority that has all the power. And interestingly, I'm not sure if it's still the same, it was called the Australian Broadcasting Authority, now it's Australian Communication Media Authority. They have more power than the police. They can compel you to speak, they can force you to, they can summons you. If you refuse to answer a question, you answer a misleading answer or any other things, you can be charged criminally. And you can't choose to say, I don't remember that. Like, there's no rule.
I've read a lot of books about that era in media, whether it be the Killing Fairfax book or the book about Twiggy. There's a whole bunch of different books, right? And they talk about that era, particularly in Perth, and they talk about radio and how crooked it was, but how powerful it was.
Oh yeah.
It was the medium, right? It was everything.
It was, and people tuned in and people listened. People listen at home at night time. Can you imagine now your kids sitting there listening to the radio at night time?
No.
They don't even listen to it during the day or in their car.
They don't listen to anything for more than a minute, and then they
switch
next
it to
one.
the next one. Yeah, they've got zero attention. Like, this is boring.
So,
Next.
Just on that, I found out last week, I don't think it was you that told me, the average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds.
Yep.
The average human has come down from 17 seconds to 4. We are more forgetful than goldfish.
I'm not shocked nor surprised by that statement.
Anyway, that's just a little snippet, little break.
It's a good
Back
tidbit.
to the story.
Good tidbit. I
Thanks.
liked it. So I really enjoyed my time. It was time for me to exit, and I thought, well, I don't want to waste all these skills and connections that I built. So I started an events company. So I started this events business in Perth, and we used to do like nightclub events, and because we had the following, and
you had that experience from the radio, and
correct.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And we used to do events like Perth Cup, where we'd have like a Melbourne Cup sort of thing, have 3,000 people in a marquee. On the first day of January, for example. That went on for years and years. That was a massive business, massive money spinner, and then just kept everything. Every time I earned money, I bought property. So as soon as I could buy another property, I would do that. Buy another one, and so on and so forth. And in Perth, in those days, it was cheap. And my first place I remember buying was 120 grand, and I was like, "Well, man, it's so expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this." And then you roll from one to the other. And then Perth had a mining boom. And prices like doubled in 6 months.
They did more than that, didn't they?
It was crazy.
Ballistic.
Absolutely crazy. And I was on some pretty cool government boards. I sat on the State Library Board, which was highly riveting stuff. One of the guys on the board with me, he said, we're rezoning this area. And it was all public information on public display. He said, you should look to try and buy something here. And I said, oh, that's a good idea. So I bought a block, which was one block, and then I got another one. And it went from being able to have one house to being able to have 10 apartments on it. So,
happy days.
It was happy days. And so, just reinvested. And then I thought, what, I'm a bit bored of Perth. And I was trying to think of what was next, and came to Sydney for a holiday. A mate of mine worked at Macquarie Bank, and he said, I'm leaving to Hong Kong. Macquarie's paid the rent on this place for the next 18 months. All the furniture's yours. Just come and move here. And I said, sure.
That's serendipity for you.
And there it was. And here I am 19 years later.
They're still paying the rent?
I wish they were. I'm long gone from there, mate. Long gone from there.
Well, you've just renovated your house, right?
I have. I knocked it down, rebuilt it.
Yep.
That was a fun project.
It's so much fun. I mean, who wouldn't want to do it over and over and over?
Oh, I love it. It's the best, man. I love dealing with neighbours and listening to their fun words that they have to say, and everything's a complaint. I think every day, every second day, there was someone there from some government authority because someone had complained, too noisy, safe work, someone trying to throw bricks on me.
So there's a company that we recruit for called SiteHive, and they have these monitors that monitor pollution levels and noise, right? But they also have cameras on them.
Yeah.
And what they've discovered is that, and that wasn't built for this purpose, is that if they put them on sites, the cameras come on with movement. And most of the complaints made by neighbours are things that they sneak out in the night, do to your place, and then report you for
100%.
it to try and get you into trouble. Now they can capture it all, and then when the police come and they show them the videos, and then the police go around to the neighbour and go, well, we've got a video of you doing this. So it's fascinating. I didn't realise it was that cutthroat.
It's prolific. And, other people will dob you in. People that missed out at the auction will dob you in. People walking by will dob you in. It's bizarre. I mean, I had one, this is the most stupid thing you'll ever probably hear. But one of the guys called me and he's like, did you order the toilet to be taken off site? And I was like, no, one of these portable toilets. So I was like, okay. So we checked the camera. Someone came around at 4 o'clock in the morning with a crane and stole the portable toilet. I mean, how low do you have to be? They're like $5,000 or something.
But how much is a crane?
Well, he must have had it on his truck. And it's like, he obviously didn't see the camera because he cut the fence and he put his chain on and lifted the toilet and drove off.
At 4 a.m?
Yeah.
Must have really needed to go.
I don't know why you'd want to steal a toilet from a building site that's been used. I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of going inside one of those things.
I have.
They're nasty.
It's not something you want to be moving around, swinging.
Nasty stuff.
Anyway, we've gone off track. We've gone off track. It's stealing toilets. So you've moved to Sydney. You've got an 18-month free apartment.
Yep.
I'm assuming, you would know some people here? I would imagine you have fair connections by now.
I knew a few. I didn't know a huge number, but, that's the joys of moving to a new city. Yep. It's all exciting.
And no plan, I would guess?
Not really, no. Yep. I just sort of come over from Perth and thought, what can I do? So I did a little bit of consulting work, consulted to this boutique investment bank, and they had this...
How did you get a job consulting to an investment bank? So far, you've robbed phones and unbroken them. You've started a community radio station that's gone ballistic. You've not really, and then you've sat on the State Board of Library. Was that the connection? How do you end up consulting?
No, I was a friend of a friend, and they said, they're looking for someone to give some innovation because they're sort of
that word.
And I was like, that sounds like
that's
something
me. I'm an innovator.
And so this was around the GFC time, just before the GFC, and they had a deal with Philips, the electronics distributor. They had this really cool piece of software called Speech Magic, which they sold to like radiology and pathology. Right. So back then, voice to text was amazing, crazy, hardcore.
Yeah.
So in the GFC, they basically went under this boutique bank, and Philips called me and said, "Would you be interested in being our distributor for the region?" I was like, "Sure, I'll give it a shot.
Nothing else to do.
Give it a red hot crack. Why not? I'm sitting around doing very little. My share investments haven't gone so well, so why not? Let's give it a red hot shot."
Have you still got all your properties, by the way?
Still got them all, mate.
Yeah.
I never sell anything except one commercial place.
Right.
I sold to the F45 guy a while ago.
Before they had their own challenges in life?
No, he'd already cashed out.
Was that Adam?
No, Rob. Oh. Anyhow, long story. But so basically took over this voice recognition business, had really no idea, partnered with a couple of key people, and then it sort of took off. But it was a one-man band sort of a business. Like I could run it with one other person.
Right.
And we basically ended up getting the voice recognition software for most radiology practices in region, and most of the public hospitals used our platform. And it was a desktop client, so you'd install it and then...
That's it, walk away.
Pretty
much. Was it on a floppy, like one of those old...
Nah, it was still on USB.
Square ones?
USB.
Oh yeah, GFC. Wasn't that old?
It wasn't that old, mate. And you'd install it and it'd run, and that was it. You'd patch it every now and again. And it was an amazing business that I did virtually very little after about 2 years. But like all good things, they come to an end.
Yes.
I had a discussion with one of our partners, and they had sold their business. There was a big split, and the two owners hated each other. They ended up selling it to private equity, and I think the guy who'd worked 30 years in the business ended up with about $2 million.
Oh,
and
after 30 years?
Yeah, because he got divorced the day after it settled as well. The wife left him. So I think he ended up with $2 million. And I thought he was a good guy, a friend, but it turned out that wasn't the case. So he said, look, this private equity, they want to get more money. They want to get more revenue. We want to buy your revenue. I said, awesome, great, cool, let's do it. Signed an NDA, as per usual. They're not worth the paper they're printed on. And gave him the diligence, gave him the books. And then he just went dead quiet. And I was like, what happened? And then I found out he went to my supplier and cut a deal behind my back. And it's because I was making more a year than he'd made in 30 years out of that business. So, c'est la vie, baby.
Wow.
C'est la vie. This is the way.
Lots of lessons.
Lots of, mate. Life is full of these lessons.
Are you sick of them? I'm sick of them.
I'm sick of the lessons, man. I just want
They
peace.
keep coming though.
Peace and tranquility would be very nice.
Jigsaw doing. Seeing
It'd
them
be bloody lovely. But what it does build is it builds this resilience and this character, and obviously you've got this second sense in terms of where things are going to go, and you can solve things quickly and you can fix problems on the spot.
Yep.
And you know when someone's going to shaft you, or at least you have a good idea.
You do, and you know what? Why is it? Because I've been shafted many times. Why is it that you still carry on and get shafted again? You just know it's coming this time, and then it doesn't surprise you as much.
Yeah, but
you still end up with the same result.
You do. I mean, look, the reality is you close the shop and you say, well, I'm not going to partake in anything anymore, but I think you lose a lot more than you
would
gain by doing that. So, but from that stemmed another opportunity. I helped a friend in his managed service company. He had an IT company. And I think this was the biggest lesson of my life that I learned.
Oh, wow. This is going to be good.
Managed service company. This was the biggest lesson I ever learned and shaped the duration ever since that time.
This is a YouTube short right here.
Right here, right here. So he had a managed service company dealing with IT for medical. So essentially all he did was medical, private practice, some GPs, whatever. So before I got there, he decided to hire this guy. And this guy basically, I don't think he had the qualification or skill. I just think he was a very, very good talker. He was morbidly obese, and he used to drive 100 metres to get his lunch, which consisted of like 3 packs of fish and chips and 6 sodas or whatever.
He sounds great.
A great guy. So I was thinking, we probably don't need this guy, because I was doing a lot of trimming for him and cost cutting and
cutting the fat.
Well, I'm not going to say that because it's 2024 and I'm going to get cancelled. So now you're cancelled instead of me. And he had a chat with me just before the Christmas break, and he said, look, I want some equity in this business. I'll work harder and I'll do whatever I need to do. And I was like, yeah, look, it's something we're going to have to think about, but it's not on the cards. What sort of equity? He's like, at least 20%. And I'm like, you've been here 3 months, mate. So yeah, it's not going to happen. So went away, Christmas came, New Year's came, and then I got this call, I think it was the 4th of January, from him at 9 in the morning, and I think it was a Sunday or a Monday, I don't know what the day was. And he says, we've got a problem. We've been hacked. And I'm like, what do you mean we've been hacked? He goes, they've deleted everything. Everything's gone. Now, I'm talking about hundreds of medical practices, and some of them 15, 20 years worth of data. And this is stuff you can't lose. You cannot lose. So I was like, we better try and work out what the hell to do. He says, I'm at the data center. The backups have been deleted. Everything's been deleted. I'm like, fuck.
That doesn't sound right.
This is something strange here.
No one deletes backups from data centers.
No, he said, could have been a hacker or whatever. I said, shit. So I went there and all the backups were gone. All the servers were deleted. And there was an old backup device that had, for some reason, failed 3 days before. And I was like, okay, let's try and restore it. So we had to get a new power supply urgently. Someone came and put a new power supply in. We checked it. Yes, there's data on there. It's missing some, but there's something there.
Yeah.
So we start the process of transferring this data, and then it fails again. And it's like the power supply's gone. It's like, holy shit, man. This is the only thing that is going to save us. So we had like a bee's dick % chance of surviving this, right? That's the best way I can describe it. So we managed to get it up and running. We started to transfer the data. Thankfully, we were able to restore most of it, but people had started work. So while we were trying to restore hundreds of practices, this one device is running 24/7, and we're all sitting in the office trying to get this data back in, try and rebuild servers. It was a massive process, and I think we worked without stopping for about 5 days straight. But the damage was done, and you've got to think about it from a perspective of lost data. It's not only the patient record, all your medical history, your medicines, your allergies, it's all your billing data, it's all your appointment data. So we had customers that were coming in saying, patients coming in going, I'm here for my appointment. They're like,
don't know what you're talking about.
Don't know who you are, don't have your record. We managed to get most of it back. We lost some for one particular customer, which was very disappointing. But the negative impact that came from that, I spent 1.5 years, 2 years of my life dealing with the fallout from that particular one incident. So what we did is after we restored it, I thought, fuck, there's something wrong here. This just doesn't make sense. How's someone going to hack your backup devices and your servers? And so I went to the data center and I said, I want a copy of all of the videos from the time.
Can anyone guess where this is going?
Yeah. Guess who I saw there, mate? at 4 o'clock in the
Mr.
morning,
Fish and Chips.
walking from the front to
I
the
bet
back.
he stole
to the
your
front to the-
toilet as well. It's 4
He
o'clock
probably
his time.
did.
That's
He
his
probably
time.
did. Probably did. And so, yeah, he was walking from the front to the back to the front to the back, basically deleting everything as he was going. And then he left and then called me many hours later. So at the moment we restored everything, I had detectives there. He got arrested, and then they basically couldn't charge him because they didn't have enough information. It was too highly skilled that they couldn't manifest charges against him. And they brought him back after, and he went to shake my hand, and I was like, "Are you joking? Are you joking?" This was in front of the detectives.
What about all the people's lives?
Correct. No care about that at all. Didn't care. Couldn't give a shit. But I saw the servers go down, and I went there at 3 a.m. Mate, you didn't show up to the office at 9 a.m. So don't bullshit to people. But yeah, that was a lesson learned about being friendly and, not thinking about security as a posture. And, now everything that I do is with that security methodology.
That's an
and mindset.
awful story.
It is, but it gives you that character and that grit, because ultimately, man, if I don't wish that upon anybody to go through what we had to go through, and years and insurers, and it was a disaster.
It's amazing the business didn't go under.
Yeah, it was very fortunate it didn't go under, because it was so many people leaving, saying we can't trust you anymore.
Yeah.
But that sort of, it was while I was doing this managed service business that the next business was being formed, which was a cloud-based practice management software.
I remember this.
So that was born out of the ashes of what had happened there. So that negative connotation carried forward, and it took a long time to build that trust back. Because while I was doing that work in that managed service company and with the medical software voice recognition stuff, saw that there was a massive gap in private practice, because they were all using servers, desktops. It was crap. It was no mobility. This was when mobile apps were a cool thing to have. And I thought, we have to do something better. And we tried to work with one of the partners, actually, and he basically discounted us. I said, nah, not interested. It's too futuristic. People just want this old school shit. I said, okay, cool. So we thought, let's do it. So we were building it in stealth. Here's another funny story. So we're building it in stealth, and one of the other guys had a disagreement with one of the guys that was working for us. So he did a blast out to the entire database of everyone at the managed service company saying, hey, we're launching this product here.
Oh, wow.
We're doing this thing. So another example of people doing...
Aren't they great people?
Shit.
People are great.
No comment. This is being recorded. Look, you do have your gems, but you do have people that just have these weird motivation. So they purposely sent that to that supplier that we were working with, and everything kicked off from there. And the guy basically wrote an email on a Saturday night saying that we're a piece of shit and all these sorts of things. So and I put that on the wall, and I looked at it every day as I built this platform. And people in the beginning were, because medical specialists are very, very nervous.
They
in
are.
terms of data.
They're worse than lawyers. Super nervous.
Far worse. They're like, we don't trust the cloud, and cloud computing's scary, and you're like, but that's where all your emails are, that's your internet banking. So it was an education piece.
Yep.
And a lot of people were still very scared of that. But then the competitor did something which made our life beautiful. They said, we're building a cloud product. And we said, cool, that legitimizes what we're doing. And they took years and years and years.
I remember we recruited for a lot of these cloud companies in this space, including yours.
Yeah, there you go. So it was a massive roller coaster ride. We went from nothing to about 2.5 million patients in 4 years.
And this was clinic to cloud, wasn't it?
Clinic to cloud, yep. So I did that with the same guy with the IT service business. And then after the time, I'd had enough. Like it was an extremely challenging business, because if you have downtime in what I'm doing now, people can't log a job for a leaking tap. Who cares? They can log it later on. But if you have downtime in this business, people will die.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
It's not good.
It's not good. And the pressure was huge. So, I had to exit stage left, because I just didn't want to have my name on the door of that any longer. So myself and the former business partner were in Vietnam. We had a disagreement on the way things should be. And I said, you've got 6 months. And then 6 months later, I was bought out of the business and moved on. And that was a massive, massive relief. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So I retired. That was it. I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this shit anymore. Software and me are finished. And then 3 weeks later, I was in an Office Works on Boxing Day starting this next business. You!
As is the way.
Idiot. Should have had more than 3 weeks off.
This business has been great, though.
It has. It has. It's huge.
And you've enjoyed this business a lot.
I've enjoyed it more than the other ones, but I'm still working way too hard as opposed to, sort of set and forget type of a situation.
But you say that, but you're working too hard because you think you're working too hard, but if you weren't working too hard, you'd be bored.
I know.
And you'd find something else to work too hard at and complain about that.
This is
your personality.
It's a curse. I don't think it's just me. I think it's everyone in general. We all complain that we work too hard, and then when we stop, we're like, oh shit.
It's awful.
What do we do?
I remember after I got out of Ashdown and I did not want to start another recruitment company, some of the idiotic ideas I had before I started another recruitment company were just lunacy when I look back on them. You kind of that's what happens. Idolism creates madness.
Oh, it does. You do. You go crazy, especially if you're used to it. So, you're used to getting emails, calls, being wanted, needed, under pressure. And then that disappears and you're like, well, I've lost my sense of worth. I've lost my identity. Who am I? And I put it, it's like when you climb a mountain and you get to the top and then you realize nobody else is there. And you're at the top of this mountain you've always wanted to get to. And you're like, well.
And you forgot your phone, can't even take a photo.
I've got to go down. I've got to go back down and start again. I'm going to climb that mountain over there.
There'll be someone on that one. I'll bet you.
Entrepreneurial curse. Because I think, when did I do it? I think it was like mid-30s when I sold out of that last business. And I was like, this can't be it. I have to do something else. I can't just sit down and go to the beach every day and go for lunch. I need to have a sense of purpose. But this was always supposed to be more of a lifestyle business, but then we grew.
There's no such thing.
Yeah,
not with your personality. There's no such thing.
The problem is you're all in or you're all out. That's the reality.
And lifestyle businesses, they're worse. They're more work.
They are. They are. Although, thinking about just having a little wine bar or something would be fun. Just sit there. I'd drink all the profits.
I don't think it'd be fun at all. I think it'd be a disaster for you to have a wine bar. An utter disaster.
Yeah. Well, you'd be coming stealing the wine. That's
it'd be a disaster for me too. All-round disaster. Yeah.
Disaster.
We'll do it. Let's do it.
Let's go. Count me in. Let's sign up. Let's go right now. Bang. Straight we go.
And so how do you feel, obviously we have a lot of entrepreneurs. Like your story is amazing and it's a good story and that there's so many highs and lows and you go through them. A lot of people don't go through all the lows, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel now? Like this business is going, it's still charging, it's still got growth. Like you said, you're launching into the UK now.
Yep.
Super exciting. Tiny little market, not many properties, shouldn't take long to conquer that.
Yeah, easy done.
Great time zone for calls. It's all good for you, right?
Mate.
All good.
Perfect.
So there's so many positives. just so you're aware.
Oh, I'm aware.
I was so glad when I launched into the UK. It was so, you just kind of go, why did I do that again?
Yeah, correct.
So, you'll continue on with this business, I'm sure, but there'll come to a point where this comes to an end.
Yep.
What do you think you'll do? Do you think you'll just do another one? Do you think you've gone from, you haven't stayed in the same area. You've jumped from jump to jump, right? You're quite agnostic in that respect.
Yeah, correct.
Is there anything else that you kind of want to do? Is there a burning desire? Is it maybe climbing a mountain?
Yeah, no, I don't think I want to climb a mountain, mate. My knees don't work that well anymore. But look, I suppose I don't really go into things thinking of what the outcome is going to be. I just go in head first and go, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I don't go in with any preconceived notion of what does an exit look like. I'm going to make X amount of dollars. Yeah. This is what I want to do. It's just not the way I operate. So I suppose my sort of next thing I think will be to give back. Like I've learned, I've got all these lessons. I don't want to do a startup life again. I don't want to build another business again. I've got my stripes. I've done it.
You have.
I've taken the picture. I've got the postcard. Now it's time to help the next generation. So I think what I'd like to do is teach again. I did a bit of teaching at uni just for fun. I'd like to give back. So help the next generation of entrepreneur potentially not make the same mistakes. And I've dabbled in it a bit, but I'd like to spend more time doing it and work out ways that I can help the society, not only just the people, because the money thing's boring to me now. It's like, okay, cool, I've done that, tick that box. I can survive for the rest of my life, no stress at all, without doing anything else. But how do I use the skills that I've acquired and how do I help other people? And I think that's the next journey for me in terms of what's on the next thing.
I think it's, you know what I think it is? I think it's less about helping next generation of founders. I think if anyone who's just listened to your story, there's a lot of resilience that you've learned in there, in the fun way.
Yeah, fun.
We've got a whole planet who's going to have to go through some resilience in the next 10 years as AI comes in and changes things, right? Yeah. And I remember that one of the headmasters at my kids' school when they were younger said, we're teaching your kids for jobs that won't exist. What we should be teaching them is just how to be resilient and accept change. That's where I think you should be looking to, because you've dealt with that and the whole world's going to go through that. So it'll be another lifestyle business. There'll be very few customers.
Yeah, very few. Nothing will happen, mate. But yeah, you're right. I mean, resilience is something you learn as an entrepreneur because you don't have a choice.
No.
If you're not resilient and you don't try and
You're not
knock
an
every door
entrepreneur
down, you fail. I mean, I'll give you a classic point in case. So our software team is in Sri Lanka. So we've got our own company set up in Sri Lanka. Great people, great company, great culture, awesome. Then we had COVID, and COVID smashed that island.
Yep.
You know, we had, and just like it did everywhere else, but the hospital systems broke over there. So, you know, we had to move people from an office into a house at rapid speed, as everybody else did, you know, but just in a more expedient manner. So we got that first smash in the face. Then COVID sort of dissipated a bit. Then we had the crisis in Sri Lanka where the government basically went broke. So there was no food, there was no petrol, there was no internet, it was electricity, it was rolling in and out. People were waiting for 2 days in a line to get 10 litres of petrol. So we dealt with that situation. You know, we consistently deal with situations that are beyond our control. And a lot of people just fall over because I can't, it's too hard, we're going to break, it's going to stop. My thinking is I always try and find the solution around it. And my obsession is to find the solution to the issue that is presented. So they'll keep coming and coming and coming and coming, and it never stops. It's relentless. Even today, you know, there's 5 things you've got to deal with. 3 things. This person's done that. That person's gone here. This client doesn't like
You've got
this.
no white shirt.
No white shirt. Yeah, well, I do, but it's yellow looking, so I don't wear these things very often, mate. It's yellow. But, you know, yeah, and I think that you're right. It's helping, you know, people to become resilient, to face failure, because failure is inevitable. You know, people will kick you in the face, they'll knock down the door, they'll say, you know, I had one partnership guy, they fobbed me off for years, and I just kept going and going, and he said to me one day, he said, "You are the most determined motherfucker I ever met. Here's your agreement." So, you know, but people don't have that tenacity.
Yeah.
And, you know, do they want to leave a comfortable, cruisy job to do something crazy like this? I don't know.
No, most of them don't.
No, for good reasons.
They just listen to the show and live it through you.
Correct. Live my pain, people.
Yeah, live your pain and live your deleting data, fish and chip eating crazies that cause you all sorts of unnecessary pain.
But, you know, at the end of the day, would you rewind it and do it again? Probably.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you are who you are and you work as hard as you can. You do what you've got to do and you push harder. I mean, look, I often thought, geez, I'm envious of these people. They finish at 5 o'clock, they go to the pub, they have a drink, they relax, the weekends are all theirs.
And they're so bored.
And that's the other side of the coin. And then as you get older, you own that shit. You're like, you know, it's who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try and be someone I'm not. This is who I am, and I'm just going to own it. And when you do that, happy days.
I agree.
Happy
There's
days.
a good book about that called The Gap and the Gain. You ever read it?
No, I don't think
You should
so.
read it or listen to it on Audible because you get lots of extra.
Okay.
You know, when the authors read the books, they're better because they talk a lot more.
Yeah.
You should read it. You're at the right stage. You'll enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you for the book recommendation.
My absolute pleasure. I don't think I've ever given you a book recommendation.
I don't think we've ever spoken about books. I didn't know you read them.
Oh no, I listen. I told you, dyslexic. Remember, I can't
right.
read. Yeah, no, it's
No,
all
like
Audible.
Audible.
God love Audible.
Audible. Well, I have to get into it, mate. I have to get into it and get it done.
Mate, thank you for coming on. In terms of Proptech, is there anything else you want to sort of talk about that? You know, in terms of like, are you growing? Are you looking at people? If people are interested, is there a way of them getting in touch?
Yeah, look, I mean, we're always growing. I mean, we've, as I probably alluded to earlier, we acquired 3 companies in the last 18 months.
Yep.
So that's been fun from a cultural fit and a synergies perspective.
It's another fun thing to do.
Great fun. Highly recommend it. Buying the businesses are fun. It's the integration, which is more difficult, different tech stacks, different culture, blending all that together. But we've got a really good core group of people. And we're just going to continue on the growth. You know, we're going to continue on the growth phase. We're going to continue pushing and, you know, doing things that people thought weren't possible. And that's the idea. You know, the stuff we've done to date, we've revolutionized this market. Before we came in with one of our products, it was pen and paper or spreadsheets.
Wow.
And now we've revolutionized it, and now we're taking it to the next level. We're probably a long way ahead of where the market is, but the market will inevitably catch up to where we are. So, you know, there's lots of really cool stuff. There's lots of data, there's lots of intelligence, there's lots of insight, and we've got a wealth of data that we can utilize to make smart decisions on behalf of people. So yeah, if people are interested in PropTech, it's a fun industry. It's, you know, it's very antiquated in a lot of ways, and it's a lot of small to medium business. So getting those people and giving them the technology and watching the reaction and them saying, this has changed the way we work. I mean, one of our platforms does invoice automation. So we take council, water, strata, council, and other various bills like insurance, and we process them at scale. Before, people had to sit there and manually type this in.
That's just a shock.
And some of these BPay, bill of reference numbers, are 20, 22 characters in length. So if you can imagine processing that, and that is your sole job, it is a soul-destroying
and
job.
a fair bit of room for human error there. Jeez.
It's significant. And I did 300 myself, and I made a huge number of mistakes, because when you get 6 zeros or 4 ones or 7 eights and you can't see it and it all blends together, and one number wrong, the whole thing
Doesn't
fails.
work.
So those sorts of things that we've done have been amazing, and we've really enjoyed the ride. The growth is crazy. It's been fun. It's still fun, and we're still growing at a rate of knots. So we'll see where it goes, mate.
I can't wait to hear the next story.
Yeah, well, hopefully it won't be one of woe. It'll be a good one.
Yeah, let's make. Well, maybe tomorrow when I'll picture of you with all these awards.
Yeah.
The episode will have come out by then. So
well, we can show the awards that I may or may not have won.
Maybe
if you can Photoshop me with something, that'll be fine.
Maybe we'll follow you tonight secretly with a camera.
Yeah, come in. It'll be wake up. Riveting stuff, mate. Riveting stuff.
Raf, thank you. It's
Thanks,
an awesome.
mate.
It's an awesome ride. It's an awesome story. People are going to get a lot out of that, and we're going to get so many YouTube shorts out of it. It's not funny.
Fantastic, mate.
I'm really glad you finally came on.
Mate, I'm glad we finally made it happen after 10 years of talking about it. So thanks for having me, Steve.
Pleasure.
Good on you, mate.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. What an epic ride that was. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.